Hello, my name is Alex Nelson, and today I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about my personal culture and values. Growing up in Los Angeles, California, and moving to Columbia, South Carolina, I've definitely experienced a lot of different culture, a lot of cultural differences between the two, and just seeing, especially through this project, how my cultural experiences as a child really influenced me and my path to adulthood, and kind of seeing the differences between my friends that were born and raised over here. I also have a very Swedish influence in my life. As for culture, I'm going to talk about that later, but that definitely played into my upbringing. I'm 50% Swedish and currently almost officially a dual citizen. Throughout my presentation, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about my cultural background, as well as about 10 cultural values that I think have impacted my behaviors and how I personally live my life. I cannot wait to go through more of my personal culture and values with you. I'm going to start off sharing a little bit about my family dynamic. So my immediate family is made up of 4 people. You've got me, my younger sister Sam, my mom Laura, and my dad Pella. My dad's entire side of the family is from Sweden, making him 100% Swedish and me 50%. I have a grandma on his side, I call her Farmor, an uncle and 2 cousins on my dad's side, and an aunt, an uncle, and 3 cousins on my mom's side. And more than just family by blood, I do think that a big part of my culture growing up was the family dynamic of my family friends. These were about 8 families that I grew up with. Their parents were my aunts and uncles, and their kids were my brothers, sisters, cousins. We went on so many trips together, and I really just grew up with these people. They'll be in my wedding. This is my family. As I mentioned earlier, my dad's entire side of the family was born in Sweden, including him. He moved around between Sweden in the summer and the United States while he was growing up, before him and his family finally settled down in California. My mom's side of the family was all born and raised here in the United States, and my sister and I were both born in the United States in the state of California. Up until college, I lived in California my entire life before I moved here to South Carolina for school. As for school, my first 4 years of schooling, which was preschool, I did go to a private Episcopalian school. However, as soon as I moved into grade school, I attended a public elementary school, a public middle school, and a public high school, all in the same city before graduating and moving on to, again, a public university, the University of South Carolina. Just another kind of random but fun fact, I love to flex this. This is my high school, El Segundo High School, which is also the high school in the movie Superbad, as long as a lot of TV commercials and other TV shows such as 90210 and All American. So yeah, that's kind of like my party trick. So for my first 18 years of living, all the way up until I moved out here for school, I grew up in Los Angeles County, right outside of the city. And then although I didn't live directly in Los Angeles, downtown area, I do believe that living a stone's throw away from one of the most popular cities in the United States definitely impacted me and my culture growing up. It has completely formed me into the person I am today, which I definitely noticed going through this project. More specifically, the small town that I actually lived in, right outside of Los Angeles, 5 minutes from LAX to be exact, is a little beach town called El Segundo. El Segundo means the second in Spanish. Our town is actually named this because we are home to the second Chevron oil refinery in California. El Segundo is a pretty small town. As you can see from the picture, you've got the population size. I graduated high school in a class of 270, many of which I've been going to school with my entire life. You really cannot go anywhere in town without running into at least 3 people that you know, whether it's a gas station, a coffee shop, or you're running out to get groceries in your pajamas. Religion didn't really become a huge part of my life until later on in my middle and high school years, because growing up only my mom went to church, my dad was only there for Christmas and Easter. My little sister and I went to church every Sunday with her while my dad stayed home. This was the same Episcopal church where I attended preschool and also went on to serve as an acolyte in the church when I was in elementary school. As I got into middle school, I began to go on my own sort of journey of faith. I started going to the Christian church in my town and youth group on my own, attending a separate church than my mom. This is when church kind of became a huge part of my life. All the way throughout high school, I was super involved in small prayer groups, youth group, summer camps. That was just a quick little rundown of my cultural background and my upbringing before I dive now a little bit deeper into my cultural values and where I stand on them. These are 10 of the cultural values that I think most have impacted my behaviors and how I live my life. The first value I'm going to talk about is social orientation. While I would argue that I am pretty in the middle between the values of individualism and collectivism, I would definitely have to say that I lean towards individualism. I totally think it's important to value the group and to have those moments of selflessness where you put others before yourself. However, I was raised to believe in my individual, to have self respect, and to strive to stand out. I do believe that a lot of this does come from the fact that I grew up in Los Angeles, which is a city that tries its best to be accepting of all people. In LA, you are praised and respected for your differences. It's what's made you so beautifully you. Individualistic culture is also super big in Los Angeles, as people often do put their own interests ahead of others to get them ahead. The next value I'm going to talk about is uncertainty orientation. I definitely lean towards uncertainty acceptance because I do feel comfortable with ambiguity and taking risks. I definitely thrive on new opportunities. In California, I was raised to believe that too much structure can be boring and it can force you to remain pretty stagnant in your life. I believe that it's important to take risks and adapt to change because new opportunities can only force you to become a better you. Even though it makes me anxious sometimes, I am my most creative when I am pushed out of my comfort zone. Growing up, I didn't like to be told what to do, and that was the culture that was accepted in Los Angeles. I love to find my own way and to grow from any challenges that I faced. As for goal orientation, I believe that I place an equal value on work as well as the quality of life. I am and I always have been a goal oriented person. At the start of every year growing up, my mom would have my sister and I list our top 5 goals for the year, as well as the things we could do to help us to achieve them. I do care about getting a career when I graduate in the spring, making money, and getting ahead in my life. However, I wouldn't say that I would sacrifice my relationships or my concern for others in order to get ahead. I work my best to find a balance in my life, to make time for my work and school, but also to make the time to invest and grow my relationships with the people in my life. I like to spend my time doing whatever makes me the happiest. Sometimes that may mean working all day with my job at Curtsy. Other times it may mean putting off that task for later time so that I can have a good time with my friends that increases my quality of life. With relation to nature, I believe that as humans we should coexist in harmony with nature. While some of this may have come from my upbringing in California and all the hippiness that comes with that, I have always had a passion for nature and the environment. When I was in the second grade, I set up an entire recycling program throughout my entire school where I set up specific recycling bins throughout the campus, and each week I would collect the cans and bottles to turn in for money. I did this for several weeks until we had enough money to save a monkey, who we named Richmond after our school, as well as 15 trees in the rainforest. Even today, I am currently working for a sustainable clothing resale company. Sustainability and protecting the environment and the beautiful nature it holds will always be a super important value to me. I try my best to focus and live in the present. Especially as a person dealing with a lot of anxiety, a lot of the times I have to take it one day at a time. That being said, I did spend a lot of my childhood learning about the Swedish traditions from my farmor. Every few summers, we would travel back to our house in Sweden to celebrate midsummer. We also had our Swedish Christmas every single year, celebrating St. Lucia. And that's me dressed up as her in these pictures down below. These are just a few of the traditions I grew up honoring that placed an importance on time-honored ways. My farmor taught and continues to teach me about her past and the history of Sweden, and that has helped to shape my culture. I believe that I've always put the good of the group ahead of my own interests. When working in a team, even if I think from the start that my idea is the best or the only way, I know and understand the importance of listening to and learning from others. The best ideas come from when we work together to combine ideas to make a greater whole. Rather than focusing on ranking differences in a group or in society, I value family and community. My family and my community of friends are what motivates me in my day-to-day life. I value my relationships with these people highly and would often sacrifice my own happiness or time to make something better for them. I've always been that friend that the people in my friend group tell their secrets to or know that they can reach out to if they're having a hard time and just want to talk to somebody who will listen. One of my go-tos to help when I'm stressed out is always, what can I do to make someone else's day? This is something I learned from my mom, who was always doing whatever she could to help others. I love spending money on my friends. Just this weekend when I was stressed out about schoolwork, I found joy in going to Target and buying some things to put together a little study kit to mail my friend preparing for the LSAT. I highly value my relationships with people and believe I was raised to live in a collectivist culture. I both value and expect office and home spaces to have a mixed space orientation. In my office at work, we had a common break room where we would all eat together and hang out. That's the picture on the right. This is where we would celebrate birthdays, have snacks for the office delivered, or congregate just to take a break from work. In the office, we also each had our own individual cubicle. I think that it was crucial to the quality of my work that I had my own space to work in so that I could focus on what I needed to do. I also love the community areas such as the break room or the tables in each division of the company because it was nice to take a break sometimes to walk around the office and talk to my favorite coworkers. I also think that this type of mixed space orientation is important in home spaces. Growing up, though I shared my bathroom with my little sister, I was lucky enough to always have my own room. My freshman year of college, I found that living in a dorm and sharing one room with another person was very stressful to me. Sometimes I just wanted to be alone to cry or to sleep or just to watch Netflix without having to wear headphones. It was fun to share the space when we would get ready together or study together, but I still missed having alone time. Since then, every year of college, I've lived in an apartment with my own room and my own bathroom. That's the picture on the left. I still love cooking with my roommates in the kitchen or watching a movie together in the living room, but at the end of the day, it is nice to shut the door of my bedroom and truly be alone. I believe that there is a balance and should be a healthy connection between personal and professional lives. While my coworkers don't need to know every personal detail of my private life, work is more enjoyable when I get to consider many of my coworkers close friends. Pictured below is one of my coworkers getting engaged and me congratulating her. Personal life does have a place in the professional workplace on occasion. Like when I recently was going through a personal emergency and needed time off to go back home for a few weeks. I was lucky that I trusted and knew my boss on a personal level, that I was able to communicate this with her without having to make up some random excuse. However, I do agree that decisions such as hiring should be made strictly professional, based off your resume and experience rather than a biased connection. As for the cultural value of status, I believe that gaining status in our societies and at work is a balance of both achievement and ascription. Growing up in Los Angeles, I did happen to see a lot of people born into status with their family name. The most famous and well-known example is the Kardashians, but I also saw a lot of people closer to me gaining status strictly because their parents or grandparents had money. The college admission scandal is another prime example of Los Angeles families paying their way into status by literally paying their children's ways into esteemed universities in California. In high school, I watched job opportunities fall into many of my classmates' laps strictly because their mom knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody at Google. Growing up watching this, it drove me towards achievement and taught me to value the status and opportunities I gained on my own by working hard. When I moved out of California to go to school in the South and needed to find a summer internship here, I found that whatever connections I did have back home had no contacts this far away. I had to work hard and earn my first interview and first job all on my own, without anyone's help to put my foot in the door. This achievement was incredibly rewarding. I like to live my days by the clock and schedule out all of my time beforehand. I start every day with a to-do list that maps out all of my responsibilities for the day. One of my favorite feelings in the whole world is getting to cross something off that list. Because I currently work 2 jobs and am a full-time college student, planning is super important to me. I have to schedule out my meetings and appointments so that I can fit everything in my schedule for the week, so it does bother me when people cancel on me or are late. Having to stick to my schedule, I am always on time and work my hardest to meet all my deadlines early. I hope you enjoyed getting to learn a little bit more about me and my culture and my backgrounds. I had a super fun time doing this project and finding out more about myself and how I was influenced, so I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.